Hey, good morning, YouTube. What's going on, everybody? Thanks for checking in with us. What's going on a Friday? Kicking it into the weekend. Your weather snapshot for right this moment, at least. Looks like we got some good, strong storms out there in Illinois, Indiana. Watch out, Irish and Mule and everybody else in the path. That looks like some tornado weather, a little red in there and whatnot. Always be cautious of. Like got a little snow in Canada, a little snow in North Dakota, going down through the Rockies. So winter's trying to make a full effect. We had a little dusting on the mountains here yesterday, just a little bit. It went away quickly, but it definitely fell. Winter is making its entrance into the area and coming up through into Washington. That's a big push there. It looks like, have your rain jackets out there, but I think that's a given in Washington, having your rain jacket out. Hey, looks like we got Tommy Boy 9 with us this morning. How you doing? Good morning. How's things down there? Looks like you guys might finally dry out for a little while. But yeah, definitely some rainy, cooler fall weather coming at us out here. I don't know how hot has it been down in the south. Has it started to cool off down there yet? I heard stories of it still being in the 90s a week or so ago. It's October. It's time to cool off. Everybody breaking out their hoodies and everything. And speaking of that, checking in on the Weather Channel there, the first widespread snowstorm of the fall is possible next week in the Rockies and High Plains, it says. So I guess that's we did get snowfall earlier in the month. Here's a Twitter out of Stevens Pass, but there's a potential significant possible snow. So be on the lookout. If you haven't got your snow boots out, you might need them. So deep jet stream plunge. So cool weather throughout the West, it looks like we'll be experiencing. They had said it was going to cool off next week. And this is looking like Monday, Tuesday potential, early next week, it says. So we might get in some below freezing weather potential, I guess. Outlook. Oh, this is Saturday. This is starting as early as tomorrow. Purple and red areas, that's a lot of snow. Looks like up in the Rockies, Jackson Hole, all the way down through Colorado. Going to be some good stuff all the way through the Canadian Rockies and out. And this looks like we're going to even get a little in Nevada there, but not nearly like what they're getting. So good times are here again. And if you're traveling in particular, I-80, I-70, it'd probably be wise to be properly prepared for that. Hey, good morning, Food Forest. How's it going? We were just talking about that wet weather you got coming in your way. Hot and hotter where you are. Right. Okay. They've been getting snow up there in your mountains. Nice. They're definitely going to get some more by this map here. Wow. That is that humid, huh, Tommy? You wash the mold out, it comes right back if you don't wait till it dries, it cools off a little bit. It's too hot, huh? That's pretty hot. And is that an annual thing? I know some places just like an annual, got to do the mold off the siding of the house and whatnot. where I grew up, it was like a 3 or 4, 5-year thing. It didn't accumulate like that bad. Some of it could just be scrubbed off at the end of the year, at the end of the season. Nothing like down there in the hottest, humidest parts. So yeah, snowfall's coming. If anybody would get their skis waxed up, it's a good sign. With that snowfall coming this week, starting your base. 01 Crom's going to be getting some good snow. It looks like he hasn't checked in with us in a long time. I guess he's getting all his winter preps ready. But hopefully he's doing good. So just sitting through all the madness this week, I just wanted to give in. Just be like, oh look, Amy Schumer got arrested trying to protest Kavanaugh and him getting voted and elected into voted into the Supreme Court and all the other madness that goes on. Did you see the video of these brain dead people rushing the Senate offices? It was funny because O'Keefe commented about how he was arrested and put on federal probation for carrying a camera into a senator's office to answer questions. And these people storm the Senate and nothing really happens to them. It was an interesting take on that. But there is unemployment since '69, which is interesting. Countered with other information that we'll talk about here in a little bit. Food Force is going to get a tooth ripped out. Oh, that's no fun. And that's sad. You got to pay somebody else to do it too, right? That's painful right there. No fun at all. Tommy Boy, you have to do it twice a year. Wow. You got way too much humidity. Hey, Bobby, what's up? Bobby Solar Homestead. Good morning, sir. What's going on out there? Haven't seen you in a while. I imagine you got a lot of recovery you're doing after the hurricane and whatnot. But they talk about that lowest unemployment, but yet there was an interesting story out of Zero Hedge. And the largest ever homeless camp appears in Minneapolis. So it's based on an AP story coming out of Minneapolis. It says it's mostly made of Native Americans in the south of downtown Minneapolis, Minnesota. City officials are scrambling to contain the situation as 2 deaths in recent weeks, concerns about disease infection, yada, yada, drug use in the Cumber winning season. Yeah, I don't think I'd want to camp out in Minneapolis, Minnesota in the winter. That would be my least favorite thing to do. Even as I consider myself skilled in cold weather, that would not be fun. Well, goodness. The mayor steps in it right off the bat with his quote to the AP. Housing is a right, said the mayor, Jacob Fry. We're going to continue working as hard as we can to make sure people in our city are guaranteed that right. Yeah, I guess you can say it like that. You have a right to try to work for it and build your own. And maybe if the government wouldn't get in the way and have all these rules and regulations to where you can't build your own house with your own labor without paying exorbitant building fees, maybe people could build their own house. But people like him have stood in the way of all those things with all these stupid fees to look out for our safety, of course. But it says here approximately 300 people are living in the camp that is situated 16th Avenue in South Franklin. But when you talk about people who drop out of the labor force who aren't counted in the unemployment numbers, a lot of these people probably might have jobs too, though. A lot of people that are homeless actually have a job, just can't afford to buy or rent anything because of prices, etc., and are homeless. So I guess it's a large Native American populace that's in this camp and is on what is once considered Dakota Lakota property land, I guess. It's become identified as part of the Native American community. A lot of the camp residents feel at home and they feel safer. That's an interesting take. I guess it kind of depends on what tribe you belong to, but most tribes offer housing within the tribal lands of some sort, um, as long as you have your tribal identification card or whatever. You know, you're registered with the tribe and whatnot. The AP article goes into all the inequalities of wealth, health, and education. But they're also tying it to the opioid epidemic and Oxycontin use and other addictions are a big problem. So we talk about how good the economy is going. Um, some of the statistics cover up some of the reality that's actually out there, and we'll get into a little bit more of that too. Um, Lots of issues going on at this site. Obviously, they've divided it into family sections. There's whole families living there. Um, Minneapolis's homeless explosion comes as no surprise. The much larger trend at play is the nation's homeless population increasing for the first time since 2010, driven by housing affordability. Exactly. Who can afford it, right? And widening inequalities. Well, it's just inability to get a job based on a lot of factors. I wouldn't say inequalities make it sound like there's somebody out there just anyway. Don't even, I hate that word. It's socialist wordsmithing whenever they use that. They talk about Trump's comments on the great economy, which we've talked about is much more tenuous than anybody leads on. And one of those big ones that we'll talk about here in a little bit. Talking more about wealth inequality. How else are they going to drive a socialist revolution unless they have epic wealth inequality? So all the key words are there to push people to choose a side. Either you're for the rich or for the poor. That's kind of sounds like what the AP is going after in their article. Bank of America says quantitative easing amplified income and wealth inequality over the last decade. Well, of course it did. Whenever you give free digits in a computer to the banks to do what they want with it, and you can only beat inflation by being in the stock market. Everybody's going to lose except for the top people that are in the system that are able to gamble in the casino and are good at it. So Zero Hedge sums it up. What does this all mean? Well, decades of failed economic and social policies are about to come home to roost. The explosion of homelessness in Minneapolis over a short period is an example of the breakdown of the social fabric that will strain many more municipalities across the country in the years ahead. The America that we knew will not be the same by 2030. That's probably true. Just checking here on the side. Tommy Boy asks, why is Melania in Africa? I'm sure it's some political meet and greet handshake type deal, Tommy Boy. I mean, why do first ladies do what they do? It's all publicity, right? Big publicity stunts, trying to make themselves look good. Tommy Boy hypothesizes to keep away from all the riots that might occur in the Kavanaugh confirmation, right? Hey, Jay Sparks, good morning. What's up? Skilled? What is, I didn't get the skilled joke. I must have missed it. Bobby, you're still down from your surgery? No worries. I just didn't know. Thanks for checking in. Bobby Barry Wood, good morning. How you doing? Looks like you're getting some wet weather coming your way. Watch out. Definitely a lot of rain and possibly snow in the mountains. Bobby's selling his 1500-watt Go Power inverter. Are you upgrading, Bobby? You hoping to, have you already got a higher level inverter? But Bobby says he's selling it for he's selling it for $275 with the remote. You pay for shipping. So we'll run a little eBay on here while we're going at it. Let Bobby know if you need a Go Power inverter. I'd imagine you can look that up. 1500-watt Go Power inverter would always be a useful item. And they're saying they're going to vote in the next hour for Kavanaugh there, Tommy Boy. So that's before the Montana senator goes home to see his daughter's wedding. It was almost like a threat. It seemed like he's like, I'm going to go to Montana. I ain't going to mess with this business. Oh, it's your backup, Bobby? I see. Got to do what you got to do, right? You're on eBay, right, Bobby? Are you trying to sell it on eBay as well, or just putting the word of mouth out? Hey, good morning, Angel R. How you doing? How's things in South sunny Florida? Probably a little hotter than the rest of us. We were just talking with Tommy Boy. The heat and humidity's got to break here soon to cool off for the fall. Get that fall weather in. So the homelessness and everything, but talking about the economy, and if you're following the stock market and whatever, it's at record highs. Now we got record jobs, low unemployment. But like I've been telling everybody to keep an eye out for, the 10-year bond rate, and also tied to the 30-year, et cetera. But now we're at like a 7-year high on the, more than that on the bond 10-year treasury. You can see it here. This is the 5-year chart, or it was a 5-year. How did it switch on its own? Get over there. But the 5-year still is above anything in recent memory. I think it goes back 7 years since it was this high. It's over 3.2. That's going to cause a lot of angst out there. As this is trying to tame inflation with the market. The president doesn't like it. But when you think about people that are going to borrow money, this is what this affects. People want to buy a house, buy a car, get any type of loan financing for any type of business building. Makes those costs all go up, makes it less attractive to do so. Our yield curve is separated a little bit. You can see it was flat on that bottom line about a month ago, and now it's a little bit not quite as flat, but everything went up. All the rates bumped up. We might be back to a 4-year, 30-year before too long, which would control inflation, but it's going to slow the economy down, and nobody wants to hear that. Everybody wants to hear winning and making America great again, when really the president doesn't control any of it. Just happen to step in it at our good time, hit the right note with the taxes, but it's only a matter of time for when either these bond rates go up or inflation goes up. You can't have both. So that's something to keep an eye on, to see how that triggers. You got all this stuff hitting highs at the same time. Something's going to give at some point. It looked like oil was riding pretty high still. I think it was up to 75 earlier in the week for a barrel of oil. So your gas prices are going to go up in winter when they usually go down in winter. That's going to be a negative effect. And suppressed gold and silver are still really, really cheap. Right, Tommy Boy? You're saying you stocked up on the... You might want to buy some more while you can, Tommy Boy. Maybe if you got any numismatic, any really rare coins, sell them and buy some, stock up on the generic or the Eagles or something, and be able to double your ounce count. Hey, HRM Weapons Machinist, good evening. Hey, or good morning, good evening. You said overnight, and I was already kicking into evening. Good morning. I'm only halfway through my coffee here. Hey, good morning, Alicia. Doesn't already know, Alicia Clegg's channel got shut down. She's now operating in the chat with the Toxic Threads nomenclature there. Make sure you go check out her new posts on that new channel. Sub for all the new stuff. Go check her out on BitChute and her other platforms that she advertises. But definitely stay on track with her stuff that she's doing that apparently Google doesn't like. Yep, housing is definitely expensive, Alicia, as we were talking about in that Minnesota article we just went over. The homelessness, a lot is driven by the prices of not only buying but renting an apartment or whatever. Out here, it's just, if you're a family, you can't rent a house for less than $1,400, I don't think. And buying is just that, like, not happening unless you're really, really either going to stretch it, or you're making a lot of cash somehow. That's about the only way I can put it. I don't know what kind of jobs these people are getting, but I know the Gigafactory and those places aren't bringing in, they're not bringing in $25 an hour jobs. They're bringing in $15 an hour jobs. And even two people working in it like that, I don't know how they can afford that. I just don't know how they would do it. Oh, you're replacing some batteries, are you, Bobby? You got some are your old battery? What kind of old batteries you got? This deep cycle style? Now you're going to try to upgrade to some lithium. They say those lithium solar car batteries, like the Prius batteries, are awesome. That one guy during the hurricane powered his setup off his Prius batteries during the event. That was pretty impressive. And a good backup power system way he had it set it up. But lithium batteries are definitely a good option if you can get them. That whole Tesla solar wall thing is something, or battery wall is something I'd definitely like to look into, but that's probably a ways away. HRM says FEMA aid is a week of food stamps and federal loan application. The rest is the state to swoon corporations. You talking about after the hurricane, HRM? Yeah, FEMA aid isn't not the way they design FEMA aid is not for the individual. For the most part, FEMA aid is for the state to get things back running, and for significant impacts to like businesses. They don't really go, if you got a personal home issue, they're not, a lot of their relief stuff is not targeted at that. They go to insurance corporations and insurance people, like maybe give a break or speed up their process or whatever. But um, if you don't have an insured home in a hurricane, like FEMA doesn't help you out. I think people would kind of get uh, have a misnomer that FEMA like helps the individual when really it doesn't. That's not even on their radar a lot of the times. Bobby, you've been working on mountain lead stocks. I'm not sure what that means, but I might not be catching up in the conversation either. All right. Anyway, let me move on here. Interesting. Well, I guess something we talk about a lot on here: the division of the people against each other. Then on Zero Hedge article about the sign of the times, the political divide in America, the worst it's ever been, which is bad news for all of us, because that just means more people are looking to the government to solve the problems amongst them. And this is really the crux of the problem with Trump in particular, is that he's causing more polarization almost by design, by his language and the way he speaks and does things. It's been one of my concerns from the beginning. And what I would consider a leader, he's a divider. And they're only hyper polarizing the populace the last couple of years anyway. It's not like they didn't have 8 years of doing it bad enough with the left, and do it on the right side almost to a worse degree, with the way some people act, just because they think they're going to be winning, quote unquote. But the political divide between Democrats and Republicans is the worst it's ever been, according to a Michigan University report. Zachary Neal, Associate Professor of Psychology and Global Urban Studies. I guess that's a good degree if you can get paid for it, I guess. Most of us couldn't get paid for that. But he's applying a model of data to build a co-sponsorship in both U.S. House and Senate. So he's studying bills in the Senate and House to analyze this, so real high-level, nationalized level. Says what he's found is that polarization has been steadily getting worse since the early 70s, he said. Today, we've hit the ceiling on polarization. At these levels, it will be difficult to make any progress on social or economic policies, which is not the purpose of the federal government to begin with, which is another problem. All these supposed social and economic policies are not supposed to be in the realm of the federal government. No wonder we have polarization. That's a key problem. If you're studying something that shouldn't even exist, but this is the polarization levels here on top of 79 and 80 in the U.S. House session, and to 15 and 16 House session down here, showing how there's little intermingling among ideas and the bills presented, I guess you'd say, and the voting patterns and stuff. And it's going to reflect in the broader populace. They've done similar models on social media about how left and right wing ideas don't get shared across social media. It's the few libertarian independents out there that actually take out both sides that feel like we're in the middle, but really we're lying out here on the outer skirts, just looking at these people like you fools. But this professor's study was published last week in the journal Social Networks. Also used co-sponsorship agendas to study this. Increasing polarization have been in a 45-year bull run. If you put it in a stock market terms, this is the chart where polarization was and where it is now between the two sides. Yeah, the key words: blue is terrible, blue is wrong, don't vote blue, and just the opposite. Don't trust red. Red is wrong, red is bad. That's about all you hear, it seems like, out of the two sides. It's just that. It's that you could break it down to that simple, no matter what they're talking about. They're wrong, we're right. Don't vote for them. They're terrible, we're great. No scheme of thought put into it. Here at the end. Last portion. Today's extreme polarization could be part of the Strauss-Howe generational theory, also known as the fourth turning theory, which could give way to a new era of politics once the political deadlock is over. Perhaps maybe this is a key indication the swamp draining is on the horizon. Turmoil is coming. Strap in. Oh, we're definitely strapping in. Gentleman that did the study, Mr. Neal, says this study raises new questions about the future of congressional policies. In truth, the only thing that is bipartisan in Congress is the trend towards greater polarization. Yeah, that's a bad thing. That's going to definitely bleed over to the general populace and all the madness you see on the streets almost daily. So that's more chaos to come if that trend continues. As we've talked about, Tommy Boy says things are going to get dicey after this confirmation. If they start locking the traitors up, who knows what might happen. Everybody likes to hypothesize about that, Tommy Boy, but if they do that, that takes away their power. That takes away their ability to blame the other side if they start locking people up. Okay, yeah, but trading out lead acid would be good, Bobby. Getting the lithium is definitely the way to go if you can. Yeah, exactly. HRM. Yeah, individual gets denied help. Exactly. Hey, Irish UFCMC vet is with us. Good morning. What's going on your end of the world? David Bolin, good morning. Thanks for checking in. Right on. Hey, got to pay the bills, right? No worries. Flush FEMA, right? HRM. Yeah. Hey, David S. What's going on? Good morning. Chinese operatives? Well, I think all the computers are Chinese operatives now, based upon the information we got on Chinese chips being inserted into computers and whatnot. But so they're listening, I'm sure, just like the NSA and everybody else. um, but final story of the day: downtown LA hit with an outbreak of typhus. Um, just interesting. They go through this story. This was this kind of a sign of the times to be on the lookout for when you talk about the any SHTF collapse disease outbreak is going to be a top concern. Typhus isn't something we usually deal with, and here's just talking about how this different how it's passed from fleas through animals. Animals don't really get sick, but people do, and it's one of those things we don't deal with very much. It doesn't cause a lot of fatalities, I guess you'd say, but it does cause a lot of just it's high fever, chills, headache, and a rash. And you can't transmit it from person to person, so that's a good thing. But it is transmitted through fleas, which also what else is transmitted through fleas? Plague, right? So the vector and the mode of transmission is similar to other diseases. So if you have a rise in one, what's the likelihood you're going to have a rise in other flea-borne diseases similar? If you were to go into a collapse SHTF scenario, knowing how one disease is transmitted and what else could follow is key. Just like your mosquito-borne diseases, if you've got the potential for the West Nile or whatever. What's the potential for malaria, yellow fever, things that we haven't seen in this country in a long time? Depending on where you live, you could be at a higher risk when things uh, go bad, because there's a lot of mosquito control efforts and a lot of controls in place now that help keep a lot of the things under control. Not only just disease monitoring, but keeping the pests killed off, I guess would be a way to say it. Just even the medicines that are available to keep your pets from having fleas and stuff will not be available. And as that stuff goes away, the increase of stuff like this could go up. Um, but if you don't have your flea collars and all the other things like that, you have an increased chance of different disease being spread. And like we learned in what was it? What was that last mosquito disease that everybody freaked out over? Um, I'm losing my mind. It only had certain mosquitoes that carried it, and if you don't have that mosquito in your area, it's not as big of a worry. Oh, what was it? What was the last mosquito disease we worried about around here in America? The one that caused the babies' heads to swell and whatnot. What was that called? I can't even remember. Losing my mind. Somebody will tell me. I'm sure somebody will remember with that big event, but things like that. Uh, so something else to think about during your SHTF preparations. Maybe just a good book on diseases would be handy. I mean, obviously it's hard to stock up on DEET and flea collars, and not the first thing we think about, but it could become a problem to pet, especially depending on where you are. Like we have plague naturally in the environment, in the Sierras, in the chipmunks and whatnot. Um, so being able just to naturally recognize that when it gets into people would be very important. Now I'm kicking myself for not remembering what that disease is. That would just the mosquito spread thing. Not H1N1, not West Nile. Hmm. Check in on the side here. We have a problem: overseas billionaires buying America up and getting tax breaks. Right, HRM? Well, our problem is everybody's overtaxed. That would be one of the problems. The world is a stage, says Alicia. Yeah, David, we know who you are. Don't worry, you can't sneak in here without us knowing who you are. If anybody doesn't know, Desarty won and his. HRM's Coleman 4 kilowatt ran 12 hours a day for 4 days using 45 gallons of gas. That's good to have your math done like that too. When you, oh wait, you're talking about your welder? I remember seeing HRM's generator he ran. He definitely had a old setup going, but it got the job done. Zika. Thank you, Angel. Zika. Zika yells Angel. Right. Yeah, the Zika, because that was big in South Florida, right? Yeah. Yeah. Zika, it only got transmitted by certain mosquitoes. Like we didn't have that problem in Nevada, but all across the southern US, it's a problem. no one thinks, and those outside diseases that can come in, like you got this Ebola Congo thing going on where that's growing. Smoking locust, what's going on? Good morning. Equine encephalitis, yeah, and that's always a concern, I think, in a lot of. That's why they have. Is that one of the ones they have a vaccine for? Is it? I know they have the West Nile for equine, for horses and stuff. Around here, you go to the feed store; they advertise that all the time. Um, uh, oh, that was a rough time there, HRM. Come back from surgery right in the middle of a hurricane, or right before, I guess you'd say, and then trying to recover. All right. That's going to kind of cover it for today, folks. All the things I saw that weren't about Judge Kavanaugh and Amy Schumer and that sideshow. But keeping our eye on the larger things going around. Make sure you're watching out for the weather. It's definitely building up for that fall winter stretch. Anybody says 01 Crom, C01 Crom, make sure you see how he's doing on the snow front. Looks like they're definitely going to be getting some coming up in the next week or so, or maybe even tomorrow, depends on how it plays out. This is the better map right here. Tomorrow through Wednesday, snow's coming, so either wax up your skis or get your chains out, whatever you think you need to do. Winter is here. Oh my goodness, Tommy boy. Schumer's on TV if interested. Yeah, right. Pause the video there. Amy Schumer is hot, says Angel, you think anybody's hot. That's your problem. You have no standards. It was a week after the surgery. Yeah, that's tough sledding there, HRM. Starting chemo next week. Did they get all the HRM? Did they get all the power back up in your area fairly quickly, or it sounds like we don't hear much about it? I don't know if there's any still spotty outages or if they've got everything back up and running. Smolo asks how the Bundy for governor race is going. Well, he gets his message out. I wouldn't say it's going swimmingly. It's hard to get traction when you're going against the MSN and you're pretty much demonized for just your name. Nobody actually looks into your ideas or anything. But I guess we say we get the word out, or we just continue to do what we're doing, really. But he might be. I mean, he's highlighting a lot of the different corruption from both sides, which is good. With all the Sisolak connections to Reed and everything, has been pretty easy to prove. Sisolak's definitely a worm, but it's like we talked about that polarization article earlier. Things are so polarized that people are entrenched in in left blue versus red, they're not. They don't even think in that third party sense. They're too stuck in their that polarized effort, and that's a big problem everywhere. People aren't willing to look at really what's beneficial for them. They're just stuck in the us versus them mentality. David, you entered your dog in the dog show, the Harriman, Tennessee dog show. I don't think I'll be able to make it out that way, David. Tommy Boy is closer by. He might be able to make it. That's a bit far for me to get going. They got all the power back up in 6 days, HRM. Right on. I wouldn't doubt there's places are still that are without some services. As much flooding as there was and damage, that's not going to be easy to recover from in a lot of those areas. Bobby's power was out 20 minutes. Yeah, you're way south too, Bobby. That was the good thing. You're so far south of the storm. Probably helped. Angel asked, "What's up with the South Carolina not releasing much info on the cop shooting?" Yeah, Bobby, what's up with that? That's up the road from you. Florence isn't too far away. And you're saying the same. Okay, I'm catching up now. You used a bolt gun, Bobby? I did not hear that. Is that how he got the drop on the officer, or used a silent weapon, or got on the drop on the rest of them, I guess? Hey, J Mac, good morning. What's going on? Hey, stand by. I'll be right back. All right, where are we at here? Oh, Bobby says he used a deer gun. All right, Tommy Boy's keeping us updated on the Kavanaugh vote because he has nothing else to do but watch TV, I guess. I don't know, Angel. I guess I'm kind of glad that we're not hearing much about it, because maybe that just means they're not going to try to agendize it. They're not making it part of the agenda push. Probably doesn't fit their narrative, especially if he used a bolt gun, like a hunting rifle. That doesn't fit the far left agenda, and it wasn't enough of a. Well, it sounds like it was an upscale community, but I guess you'd say a relatively. All right, HRM, have a good day. We'll see you later. Tommy Boy, you're still waking up. Goodness, it's almost noon, isn't it? Well, yeah, Irish. Any weapon or any tool is useful if you know how to use it, right? All right, have a good one, HRM. We'll see you later. Yeah, Bobby, a lot of stuff's not coming out of that event out there, but the thing I was stuck on is I couldn't figure out if the dad was the one that shot the cops or if it was the son who they were after to begin with. and it said that the dad may have shot the son. It was all confusing the way the article that I saw. So I guess it's one of those things we'll just have to pay attention to, keep an eye on, or hopefully Bobby will tell us when he finds out out there his way. Making mini cleavers today, Irish? Are you using all that box full of tools you found or that you got yesterday? Yeah, Angel, that's a big keyword, right? If you hear that the police were underpowered, they need to be militarized. That's why they have MRAPs and everything else. Yeah, that's a be careful what you wish for type thing. Ah, yes, that box of tools looks like it would come in handy. All right, folks, I got to get out of here. Thanks for checking in. Thanks for joining us. Thanks for the conversation. Watch out for the Zika, right, Angel? All right, folks. So have a good day. Keep an eye on those things that affect you most. We'll stay safe around here. Have a good weekend if we don't talk to you between now and Monday, or we'll see you tomorrow. Live free.